6 p.m. in the nation's economic capital, Douala, 6 p.m. throughout the national territory. Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for taking this other rendezvous of the 6 p.m. English newscast over LTM Television. We begin this newscast straight away, taking you to the west region of the country, talking about the alarming rate of insecurity, which has become a call for concern. As is the case of a 2-year-old boy who was murdered on his birthday. His name, which we got as Tolambo Brian, was murdered in Babaju. Before the intervention of the forces of law and order, the murderer was already facing jungle justice. The following report with you, Leyuga Beatrice, compiled the details.
Insecurity has become a major call for concern in Cameroon today, as death rates have increased based on numerous circumstances, whereby no one is saved from this barbaric act. This is the case of a 2-year-old boy whose name we got as Tolambo Brian, who was murdered on his birthday in the district of Babaju in the West region. Reports says that he was murdered by his former neighbor, Tolompi Diran, 20-year-old student of the mechanical terminal class at the Balepo Technical High School. Residents around the scene where the act took place says it was a terrible incident, as they explained this painful misfortune. The military authorities came to the rescue of the mother from the hands of the population, as he was later taken to the Brigateur in Buda in order to save his life from the angry population. However, investigations are still ongoing by the Gendarmerie Company of Buda, which is similar to a ritual crime, as they meditate their fate in the cells in order to be deferred before the public prosecutor.
And we now take you to the southwest region of the country, as the population of the Meme division have joined their voices in the divisional consultative talks gearing towards the national dialogue, which was initiated by the head of state. They made their proposals known in a meeting which was convened by the senior divisional officer for Meme, Dong Shambelin Tour. Nanji Pelagie compiled the details in the following write-up.
We are here because Cameroon is at the crossroads, and Cameroonians in Belvian division will need to be very honest. It is because we are not honest, we are pretending to tell the truth. That is why we are where we are.
These and many more, like the return to federalism, demilitarization of the southwest and northwest regions, general amnesty to all those arrested in relation to the Anglophone crisis, the reduction of the presidential term of office to 4 years, are some of the proposals made by the population of Meme division in the course of their divisional consultative talks geared towards the Grand National Inclusive Dialogue announced by the head of state, billed from the 30th of September to the 4th of October 2019. The consultative talks were chaired by the SDO of Meme, Chamberlain Twondong, who highlighted the devastating effects the crisis has had on the population and thus saw the need to resolve the crisis.
4 of the 5 subdivisions fully represented. The Amber Boys are also represented. Those who surrender, they are here to discuss with us. That is why, as the head of the division, let me say I'm very happy because I'm sure that my population are going to fully participate. It has been seriously affected, you know it very well. State structure destroyed. Children, some of them are not going to school. I cannot enumerate.
The meeting that took place at the Kumba City Council Hall witnessed the population expressing their worries with the aspiration that it will be taken into account.
If our father, the president of this nation, can release as the leaders to allow because of this problem, people can.
The announcement of a national inclusive dialogue, which was received with so much euphoria in this part of the country, made the population hopeful that it will bring sustainable peace to the restive northwest and southwest regions.
And still in the South region of the country, consultative talks were equally held in the Dian division in the presence of administrative and traditional authorities who brought forth their various suggestions for peace. Nanji Pelaji is still on this one in the following report.
Following a call for a national inclusive dialogue by the head of state in an address to the nation on September 10 as a move to solve the ongoing crisis in the Northwest and Southwest regions, consultations towards this dialogue have begun at the national, regional and divisional levels, as it was the case in the different administrative units of the Southwest region. The consultative talks in Dian division brought together a cross-section of the population like administrative authorities, politicians, elites, traditional rulers, just to name but these, who tabled varied proposals, worries and aspirations to be discussed at the national dialogue table. Chairing the consultative talks in Dian division, the SDO Fawan Lawrence say his division is out for peace.
We gathered here on the behest of the chiefs, but beyond the chiefs, you have a cross-section of the Indian population who have come from far and wide today to talk nothing but peace and to plan our own strategy. When I talk about our own strategy, I mean our own strategy of how to table the grievances of the Indian man to the quarter that be when the day shall come.
The traditional rulers and elites of Dian were not indifferent to this call for peace.
What Indian man wants is peace. We are a humble population. We have never fought wars. We are not used to wars. We cannot bear wars conditions. These 3 years has been something unbearable to India. So peace is our prerogative.
Life is still going on in Indian division. So there is greater hope when this dialogue is held, because peace has its victories, no less renowned than wars.
Administrative authorities have, however, reassured the population of taking all necessary measures to ensure the return of peace in Dian division.
I will continue with this peace crusade, probably throughout the Southwest region, where Indian people are mostly settled, because of the socio-political crisis.
The population is hopeful that the Grand National Inclusive Dialogue will make the ongoing crisis history for the population in this part of the country, and they will enjoy sustainable peace again.
The population of the Fako division have expressed their different opinions and proposals for the way forward ahead of the Grand National Dialogue, which has been slated for the 30th of September to the 4th of October 2019. This was during a pre-consultative meeting which was convened by the Senior Divisional Officer for Fako, Emmanuel Ngamba Ledu. Kuma Honori put together the following in the following write-up.
Divergent proposals were made by a cross-section of Fako population during an enlarged pre-consultative dialogue convened by the Senior Divisional Officer for Fako, Emmanuel Ngamba Ledu, with the aim of bringing out proposals to be forwarded to hierarchy ahead of the national dialogue. The meeting was attended by stakeholders drawn from different structures of the socio-economic and socio-political status of Fako division, with lawyers, transporters, traditional rulers, traders, politicians, teachers, clergy, just to mention but these few. The meeting, which lasted for 8 hours, was presided over by the Senior Divisional Officer for Fako, who took time to remind the population of the aim of the meeting for them not to be derailed. He urged the population to be sincere with their expressions, as nobody will be arrested because of his or her opinion.
A Grand National Dialogue, which is a forum to enable all of us to express ourselves on these very important issues concerning us directly. I mean, the socio-political crisis in the Northwest and Southwest regions. So everybody will not be able to go to their own day, but We need the contribution of everybody, even those who are school remain in their villages.
The senior divisional officer, however, took some intervals, permitting the divisional officers of the other subdivisions under his territory of command to chair the session on his behalf. The government delegate to the Limbe City Council and the Honorable Member of Parliament for Fako East constituency were given the opportunity to chair the dialogue with the population with whom they are quite conversant.
That we want to have your own contribution to this national dialogue that can bring a solution, possible solutions for peace in the Northwest and Southwest regions.
During the session for the women, the president of the Tico Women's Forum and other women leaders decried the fact that women have not been given the opportunity to champion the peace crusade. They, however, requested for a ceasefire, the release of detainees arrested as the result of the Anglophone crisis, amongst several others. The lawyers were represented by the Fako Lawyers Association. They pleaded on the government to revisit several memos filed in by the Bar Association of Cameroon Lawyers. The religious leaders were represented by a college of clergy drawn from the Protestant, Pentecostal and denominational churches across Fako Division. Their proposals, which was in the form of a prayer, is to heal the land of Cameroon from ancestral curses and for Cameroonians to embrace other values such as peace and reconciliation. The chiefs of Fako, headed by the president of the Fako Chiefs Conference, presented a 10-point memo, amongst which are for a one and indivisible Cameroon, a 10-state federation, regional balance, House of Chiefs, and granting amnesty to all those incarcerated as a result of the socio-political tension. At the end of the meeting, the senior divisional officer for Fako promised the population that he will forward their proposals to the governor, who will intend forward to the national level.
Pupils and administrators of the government bilingual primary school Penja of the Mongo Division in the Littoral region received didactic materials, a ceremony which was under the supervision of the mayor, Catherine Kone.
3 weeks into the 2019-2020 academic year, schools in the Littoral region continue to benefit from humanitarian aid launched by the head of state. The donation of didactic materials to school administrators in Penja comprise of books, pen, pencil, textbooks and other didactic and teaching aid. The donation at Hotel de Ville of Penja was motivated by the move to promote education as stipulated by the head of state.
GBPS Penja is so happy for this minimum packet of this 2019-2020 academic year because there is a great difference from that of last year. We have things like wheelbarrows to keep our environment clean. We have our drinking buckets, because we already had drinking buckets, but they were not sufficient in our classrooms. This one will help now. Will help us to give good drinking water to all our pupils.
With the influx of children from the 2 English-speaking regions of Cameroon, teachers say the benches have become insufficient.
I'm pleading to our Lord Mayor that he should look into us, especially the Anglophone school problem of benches. With this problem of the Anglophone crisis, many pupils are leaving that area to come into our schools, making the enrollment to be very heavy, and we lack benches. So we are pleading, if our Lord Mayor can provide up some benches, if the government can send us teachers, if the government can look into our situation of buildings, because the children are many in one class.
It should be noted that the move by the head of state is to promote and encourage children to go to school whom they believe are leaders of tomorrow, as such need to be educated.
Still in the same line of information, the mayor to the Edinal Council offered didactic materials for the 2019-2020 school year for pupils for public schools in the Edinal municipality. Kuma Onori was there present and files in with the following compiled report.
Schools in Edinal municipality have benefited from a consignment of didactic materials for the 2019-2020 academic year. The handing over exercise took place recently at the premises of the Edinau Council and was presided at by the Mayor of Edinau Council, Mayor Tonde Lifanje Gabriel, alongside management and administrative staff of the council. The mayor called on the population of Edinau to send their children to school, given that Edinau municipality enjoys the privilege of schools running functional, while most schools in rural areas and semi-urban towns have shut down their doors for schools since the ongoing Anglophone crisis. He challenged head teachers to use the materials judiciously and to bring good results in the ongoing school year for Edinau municipality.
The purpose is to distribute to schools so that learning should be easy and that teachers can easily teach their children and to make sure that they are not left behind. Yes. Because all public exams that comes, there's no difference between schools in urban towns and in rural areas. So the children has to learn, and by so doing.
On behalf of the teachers, the Inspector of Basic Education for West Coast, Madame Enanga Agnes, thanked her minister for making available the consignment of didactic materials on time just 3 weeks into the new school year. She added the materials will go a long way to aid the teaching and learning process of the teachers vis-a-vis the people of West Coast Municipality.
In every academic year, the government sends didactic material to schools to ease the teaching and learning process. So as you can see behind me here, these are didactic material that the government has sent through the council to give through the inspectorate to public schools in that locality. So we have come here to collect the didactic material to distribute to schools.
It is worth mentioning to note that didactic materials for the 2019-2020 school year has increased as a result of the curriculum approach given by the Minister of Basic Education.
Added to the order list. So I'm praying and really make sure that these materials are being used correctly. We even instruct the head teachers as we are sharing on what to do. They should use their book. These things are not for sale. Yes, we give them to use in schools. So they should use them very well. When they go, let them share it to their teachers. Then we are also thanking the government on behalf of the...
The inspectorate will in the days ahead be handing over the materials to the head teachers of the 9 public schools in Edinau subdivision.
The Queen Mothers and Princesses of the Ndai Division, West Region of Cameroon, received ICT training, a gesture which was initiated by the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Celestine Kecha Cortez. Leyuga Beatrice Fonyonga files in.
The launching of training session of the Queen Mothers and Princesses of the Ndai Department was a success and a big celebration for the women of the Ndai Department. The ceremony was initiated by the International Network of Princesses and Queen Mothers under the patronage of the Minister Celestine Kecha Cortez, alongside the Senior Divisional Officer of the Ndai Department, who was represented by the First Deputy Mayor Mveng Vogo. Out of the 13 groups of the Ndai Department represented, 150 people benefited from this event, as well as hundreds of other participants, among whom are the leaders of the groupings. These act as a question for all Cameroonians, especially those in the Ndai Department, to train their wives and daughters to master and learn information and communication technology (ICT). The women were highly educated during this meeting, as they received talks from various speakers who says the joy of illiteracy is one that does not master the information tool. Also speaking was Chief Bagowa Japom and Nick Julio, who spoke on behalf of his peers and called on the learners to learn some hints on how to build Cameroon and not the opposite. The people were excited as they expressed their gratitude to Minister Kecha Cortez, who made it possible, as the participants left well equipped after a plenary with the College of Trainers.
And now taking you out of the country but still remaining in Africa, the government of Nigeria has banned the sale of foreign milk to support struggling farmers, a move which is considered to turn out to affect the Nigerian government. Al Jazeera News.
Managers of the LNZ dairy factory are focused on making the business bigger. Like other local producers, they are hoping to cash in on a possible shortfall supply because the Central Bank of Nigeria has cut off the sale of foreign exchange to importers of dairy products.
We do have a lot of plans for expansion because currently our capacity is limited mainly by supply of raw milk. So we are planning to expand organically as well as inorganically in near future.
Other producers explain that their ability to deal with any shortfall isn't in doubt, as long as the government gives them subsidies to boost production.
What we lack is the capacity to link this production to the processors. And if you look at 1999 statistics, that's the latest we have on livestock census, we were told that we have about 20 million cows. If you take a quarter of those cows to be female and producing milk at a session, even 2 liters per milk per session, per 2 sessions, you will come up with about 10 million liters a day.
Critics say that may not be enough to quench the thirst of 200 million Nigerians.
About 585,000 tons of milk is produced in Nigeria each year, but that's only 40% of what it needs. There aren't enough plants and processing facilities to process what farmers produce, so the rest is imported at a cost of $1.5 billion.
Agricultural products were Nigeria's main export before the discovery of oil. Despite the huge oil revenues, Nigeria's farmers have failed to feed everyone, and the country relies on imports. Some experts want to see the government strictly enforce the ban on dairy imports to benefit Nigerian farmers.
All measures that may discourage importation of such goods should be taken by government, including stringent measures against the borders of the country with neighboring countries who are not cooperating well.
A ban on rice imports imposed a few years ago meant Nigerian farmers grew more, but the ban failed to stop smuggling. Critics fear the same fate with dairy imports, but the government says import restrictions will lead to self-sufficiency. It's not clear if local dairy producers have what they need to make up for the supply shortfalls, or whether smugglers will step in and flood the market with contraband milk products. Ahmed Idris, Al Jazeera, Kano, Nigeria.
At least 40 civilians at a wedding party have been killed during a raid that was conducted by Afghan special forces on Taliban. Courtesy, Al Jazeera.
Afghanistan's military says the attack against foreign fighters was successful, but once again it seems civilians, including women and children, became casualties. Sources in Helmand province say the victims were attending a wedding party on Sunday evening when they were attacked. As the rescuers attended to the dead and injured, a crowd gathered at a local hospital waiting for any news.
A plane arrived and bombarded the wedding ceremony and some nearby houses, including my own. Around 50 to 60 people were martyred and 50 to 60 others are wounded.
This attack follows another last week in eastern Nangarhar province, when a strike said to be targeting an ISIL hideout killed dozens of villagers working nearby. Afghan civilian deaths in coalition operations have long been a contentious issue, particularly because of the sophisticated weaponry used by NATO and US forces.
Even with them having, with all the precision weapons and all the, the up-to-date latest technologies, the civilian casualties were unavoidable. Of course, the underlying requirement for all of this is good intelligence. If you don't have good intelligence, often what happens is that you end up targeting civilians.
The UN says that more civilians have been killed this year in operations by the Afghan military and their coalition allies than by armed groups, including the Taliban. A report just published by the Ministry of Health has further highlighted the problem, showing that in the past year, 3,300 civilians have been killed and another 16,500 wounded. Rob McBride, Al Jazeera, Kabul.
Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to an end of today's edition of the English newscast over LTM Television. Thank you very much for trusting this forum of information. For more on our information desk, simply take a rendezvous with the French news, which is going to be at 8 p.m. with Yves Sanjo. Until then, remain in company of our programs.